Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping straight into the fascinating currents shaping the global TV, film, and media industries, all based on a recent news roundup from April 2nd, 2025. Think of this as your express route to understanding what's significant and where things are headed.
Absolutely. We've got a really rich mix of information here for you, touching on everything from the creative forces behind successful dramas to, surprising strength of local cinema in certain parts of the world.
Right?
Not to mention the ever-evolving influence of artificial intelligence and the strategic moves being made by major players in broadcasting.
So your mission, should you choose to accept it, and you have by tuning in, is to absorb the most insightful and intriguing developments we can extract. We want to give you those key takeaways, kind of without you having to sift through all the noise. Okay, let's dive right in. One of the first things that caught my eye was the success story coming out of Warp Films.
Yeah, what's really interesting about Warp Films' recent win is this specific project, Adolescence. It's a one-shot drama that landed well on Netflix. Mark Herbert, their CEO, he credits the success to a few key elements, notably the trust that Netflix placed in their vision, which, allowed for a more authentic and emotionally impactful piece.
That makes sense. And he also highlighted the importance of tapping into genuine emotion and the power of regional filmmaking. It sparks a thought, doesn't it? Could a significant part of why Adolescence resonated? Could it be precisely because it offered something outside the usual mainstream formula? Something like rooted in the specific place and experience?
I think so.
And then you look at their upcoming BBC thriller reunion, a bilingual series incorporating English and British Sign Language that feels like another bold step, in terms of broader representation and creative risk-taking.
It certainly does. And Herbert's expressed hope that the success of Adolescence might encourage more risk-taking across the industry. Well, that's quite telling. If we consider the current landscape, saturated as it is with familiar narratives, this desire for more unique voices and stories could signal a potential shift, perhaps towards a greater appreciation for originality, maybe even as a way to cut through the clutter and connect with audiences on a deeper level. The emphasis on regional filmmaking also suggests a growing recognition that compelling stories aren't, confined to traditional production hubs.
Exactly. Now, let's pivot a bit to the international scene with The Zweiflers, a German drama being distributed by ZDF Studios. What aspects of this project struck you as particularly noteworthy?
Well, what stands out immediately is that the creator, David Hatta, describes the series as emotionally autobiographical. That personal connection often lends a layer of authenticity and depth that can be incredibly powerful for viewers. The series centers on a Jewish patriarch, a Holocaust survivor, and the complex familial dynamics that emerge as he contemplates selling his delicatessen.
Okay, so we're looking at some really significant themes here. Identity, the enduring power of memory, and the heavy weight of history. It sounds like Hatta's personal history, drawing on his experiences growing up in Frankfurt, is really at the heart of this narrative.
Precisely. And the fact that a major distributor like ZDF Studios is backing a story with such specific cultural roots, it speaks to the continued demand for character-driven narratives. Stories that, while rooted in a particular experience, can ultimately connect with universal human emotions. It's a good reminder that strong storytelling can indeed cross borders.
Absolutely. Now, for a complete change of pace, let's look at Vietnam. Apparently, their local cinema seems to be experiencing a real boom.
Yes, the news indicates a very strong recovery for their film industry post-pandemic. And what's particularly striking is that this resurgence is being driven by the success of homegrown blockbusters. Films like Bojia, Dad, I'm Sorry, and High from Fury, which are actually outperforming international releases in their domestic market.
Wow. That's a pretty significant statement about the power of local storytelling, isn't it? And the deep connection that domestic films can forge with their own audiences. It serves as a strong counterpoint to the, often dominant narrative of Hollywood's global reach.
It certainly challenges that narrative, and it underscores the critical role that cultural relevance plays in achieving success at the box office. It also raises interesting questions about how local cultural nuances can resonate so strongly with domestic viewers, in a way that international productions might not always achieve.
Moving on to content acquisition, we have insights from Liliana Castillo of Red Uno in Bolivia. What kind of content is she prioritizing for their Latin American audiences?
Well, their strategy appears to be firmly rooted in understanding their audience's preferences. They're focusing on acquiring telenovelas and game show formats genres that have a long and successful track record in Latin America. What's also interesting is their commitment to producing original formats that allows them to create content specifically tailored to their viewers and further strengthen their local identity.
It really highlights the enduring popularity of these more traditional television formats in certain regions, doesn't it? It's a good reminder that while global trends are certainly present, local tastes and cultural affinities still play a major role in what resonates.
Exactly. And the investment in original productions shows a proactive approach to building their brand and catering directly to their audience's desires rather than solely relying on content produced elsewhere.
Now, let's touch on a broader sentiment within the industry that's sort of yearning for a modern equivalent of The Matrix. What do you think is driving this desire?
The call for a new Matrix. It really seems to stem from a desire to recapture that sense of groundbreaking storytelling and visual innovation that the original film delivered back in '99. It's about pushing the boundaries of cinematic possibility, creating an experience that truly captivates and feels, ahead of its time for today's audiences who've seen so much already.
It speaks to that hunger for the unexpected, doesn't it? That feeling of witnessing something truly novel and, well, mind-bending on screen. It makes you wonder what the defining, innovative cinematic experience of our current era will ultimately be.
It does. And it underscores the ongoing challenge for filmmakers to not only tell compelling stories, but to do so in ways that feel fresh, exciting, and relevant in a world where audiences have access to an overwhelming amount of content.
Okay, let's delve into a topic that's generating a lot of discussion and maybe a bit of apprehension,
Right.
the impact of AI. We saw news about OpenAI's tool that can reimagine photos in the style of Studio Ghibli.
Yeah, what's fascinating and perhaps a little unsettling about this tool is the immediate tension it creates around the idea of artistic creation. On one hand, it's an incredibly accessible and engaging tool that allows anyone to play with a beloved artistic style. On the other hand, it immediately brings to mind the very strong opinions of someone like Hayao Miyazaki, who has historically been quite critical of AI's role in art.
It really throws that central question of originality versus automation into sharp relief, doesn't it? Are we celebrating genuine creativity or just a sophisticated form of mimicry? And the fact that paying subscribers are enthusiastically sharing these AI-generated images online, it really highlights the public's fascination with this technology, even if it sparks debate among artists and creators.
Exactly. And if we broaden our view to the animation industry as a whole, we see the Animation Guild, TAG, actively engaging in negotiations to establish guidelines for the use of AI. Their efforts are clearly aimed at trying to strike a balance between embracing the potential for technological advancement and addressing very real concerns about job security and the future of human artistry in the field.
That makes perfect sense. You can see the potential benefits, like the possibility of cost reduction mentioned in relation to projects like The Electric State and House of David, using AI for certain aspects. But that has to be weighed against the very legitimate fears of widespread job displacement for creative professionals. It's a complex equation the industry is wrestling with.
It is indeed. And when you factor in the ongoing trend of global outsourcing in the animation sector, it adds another layer of complexity to the conversation about the future of creative labor in this industry.
Now let's turn our attention to some strategic moves being made by established broadcasters. Channel 4 in the UK recently announced their intention to begin in-house production in 2026. That sounds like a pretty significant shift in their operational model.
It is a major departure, a huge shift from their long-standing tradition of primarily commissioning content from independent production companies. Alex Mahone, Channel 4's chief executive, has explained this move as a way to diversify their operations and create new revenue streams in a rapidly evolving media environment.
Which makes a lot of sense when you consider the current media landscape and the financial pressures that many traditional broadcasters are facing as viewing habits change. It will be interesting to see how this in-house production unit develops and what kind of talent they start bringing on board.
Absolutely. It's a clear indication that even well-established media organizations are recognizing the need to adapt their strategies, to ensure their long-term viability in a market undergoing significant transformation.
On a more positive note for the UK industry, it seems the success of Adolescence has really amplified the ongoing discussion about the global appetite for British storytelling.
Yes, The news specifically highlights how the positive reception of Adolescence underscores the strong and continuing global interest in content originating from the UK. This should be encouraging news for all sectors of the British television industry, suggesting a wealth of potential opportunities for creators and producers.
Now, thinking about reaching younger audiences, there was a brief mention of the strategies that public service broadcasters, organizations like the BBC or PBS that have a public service remit are considering to engage with Gen Z. What are some of the key approaches being discussed?
Well, the primary focus seems to be on meeting younger viewers where they are already spending their time. So that means adapting content for and distributing it through social media platforms. There's also a recognized need for these organizations to advocate for regulatory support to aid them in effectively reaching these digitally native audiences.
It's a constant challenge, isn't it? For these more traditional broadcasters to maintain relevance for a generation that has grown up with entirely different media consumption habits and expectations.
Indeed. It requires a willingness to experiment with new formats and platforms while also articulating the enduring value proposition of public service broadcasting in an increasingly fragmented digital landscape.
Here's an interesting little tidbit, apparently. The character of Patty Lee in The Studio, the former studio head played by Catherine O'Hara, is reportedly inspired by Amy Pascal, the former Sony executive.
Ah, yes. What makes this connection so intriguing is that it offers a glimpse behind the curtain of fictional Hollywood portrayals, revealing potential real-life influences. Amy Pascal is known for her strong personality, her bold decision-making, and for her role in mentoring prominent figures in the industry. So it's not surprising that aspects of her career and persona might have informed this character.
It definitely adds another layer of intrigue when you're watching these shows set within the entertainment industry, knowing that some of the characters might be loosely based on actual people who have shaped Hollywood behind the scenes.
It blurs the lines between fiction and reality, doesn't it? And can often make the storytelling feel a bit more authentic, even within the heightened world of Hollywood drama.
Now, for a bit of a reality check, even for independent filmmakers who achieve significant critical acclaim, financial stability isn't always a guarantee. Producer Alex Sachs brought this up in a recent interview.
This is a crucial point to consider. Sachs, who has a track record of producing well-regarded independent films, shed light on the ongoing financial challenges of making and sustaining a career in independent cinema in 2025. The fact that even celebrated filmmakers like Sean Baker and Brady Corbett can struggle to make ends meet despite their artistic successes really underscores the often precarious economic realities of the independent film world.
It's a stark reminder, really, that artistic recognition doesn't always translate into financial security in this industry. It makes you appreciate the dedication and passion of those who continue to create independent films despite these significant hurdles.
It certainly does. It highlights the often unseen struggles that exist behind the scenes of even critically acclaimed productions and the complex economic factors that influence the ability of independent filmmakers to sustain their work.
We also saw a flurry of executive moves across the industry. Brad Woods has stepped in as president and CEO of Vizy Media, with Ken Sasaki becoming chairman. Chris Oliver Taylor has joined Totem Global. Lynette Zolich have been promoted at ZDF Studios. Carissa Coulthard is taking on a newly created role as development executive at Deep Fusion, an AI-focused production company. Keoghan Crawford is now heading up international at DreamSpark. Josh Line is the new global CMO at Yahoo. And Javier Pons has been named Chief Content Officer of Telemundo. That's quite a bit of movement at the top.
Yeah, these kinds of leadership changes often signal potential shifts in strategic direction or priorities within these organizations. The appointment at Deep Fusion is particularly noteworthy as it underscores the increasing significance that AI is playing in content development. The other moves, spanning various sectors from manga and traditional television to digital platforms, really illustrate an industry in constant evolution and realignment.
Definitely. Now let's touch on some of the buzz coming out of festivals and markets. Norman Reedus has been tapped to lead the jury at Cannes. We're also seeing J.J. Abrams' Duster and The Walking Dead, Dead City, premiering out of competition there. And at CinemaCon, Sony's Tom Rothman was focusing on the importance of cost management, the ongoing debate around theatrical windows, and even suggesting the possibility of lower ticket prices.
These events and pronouncements provide valuable insights into the current concerns and strategic thinking of key players. Rothman's emphasis on cost control and theatrical windows reflects the ongoing efforts to adapt to the changing landscape of film distribution and consumption. His mention of potentially lower ticket prices is an interesting consideration as the industry seeks to entice audiences back to cinemas.
Absolutely. And then we have Zach Kreger promising a bold new vision for Resident Evil, and Michael O'Leary, CEO of Cinema United, making a case for longer theatrical release windows. It really feels like there's a constant tension, doesn't it,
Yeah.
between established practices and the need for innovation in how films are brought to audiences.
Exactly. Everyone across the industry is actively trying to figure out the most effective strategies for reaching viewers and maximizing revenue in what is undeniably a very complex and evolving environment.
Finally, we have a substantial list of key projects that are currently in development. Sam Mendes is embarking on a fascinating project, casting 4 separate biopics about each member of the Beatles, each told from their individual perspective, with a planned release by Sony in 2028. That's a massive undertaking.
It's a truly ambitious project, and a very unique way to approach the story of such an iconic and influential band. The involvement of Apple Corps and the families of the band members adds another significant layer of authenticity and authority to the endeavor.
We're also seeing new cast members joining the 4th season of HBO BBC's Industry. Hannah Van der Westhuizen making her directorial debut with a short film titled Peter, which will explore themes of identity and acceptance. Hulu has officially greenlit The Testaments, the highly anticipated sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, with confirmed cast and a production start date. Lionsgate is developing an animated prequel to the John Wick franchise, with Keanu Reeves returning to voice Wick and Vanessa Taylor on writing duties. And Harry King Television is producing True Sherlock, a drama series based on Nicholas Sercombe's novels, with casting details expected soon and filming set to begin in the UK in January 2026.
Wow, that's a really diverse slate of projects, ranging from expansions of established and popular franchises to new independent narratives exploring important social and personal themes. The continuation of Margaret Atwood's dystopian world with The Testament speaks to its enduring relevance, while the John Wick animated prequel indicates the ongoing appeal of action-oriented storytelling across different formats.
And there's more. The trailer has dropped for the horror film Bring Her Back, from the directing duo behind Talk to Me. ITV has commissioned a new reality adventure series called The Box. Murray Bartlett has joined Pamela Anderson and Ellen Burstyn in Cordell Mandruzzo's film Place to Be. A French adaptation of the German series 30 Days of Lust is in development at Black Sheep Films. Germany's joint is remaking the French reality format The Power, and Disney Plus, ESPN, and Skydance are teaming up for a behind-the-scenes docuseries focused on the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a lot to keep track of.
It's a whirlwind of activity, really, showcasing the sheer volume and breadth of content that is currently being developed across various genres and platforms, encompassing both scripted and unscripted programming and spanning both domestic and international productions.
And we can't forget the significant deals that have been made. ITV Studios has acquired a majority stake in Moonage Pictures, the production company behind The Gentleman. Mill Bay Media has been launched by former heads of BBC Drama with 2 new projects already in development. Jessica Lee Gagne has expanded her role on Severance and signed with major talent agencies. Michelle Fazekas has been named the new showrunner for the remarkably long-running Law & Order, SVU. Nest Productions in the UK and the ATS team in the US have formed a partnership to facilitate transatlantic co-productions. Vue Lumiere has acquired the rights for the UK and Ireland to Bluey at the Cinema, Let's Play Chef Collection. Foxtel in Australia has picked up The Daily Show, following the closure of Comedy Central there. ITV and Wildbrain TV have jointly acquired the animated kids comedy Goat Girl, and director Joel Crawford is signed with a major talent agency.
These deals highlight the ongoing trends of consolidation and collaboration within the industry. ITV's acquisition of Moonage Pictures is a clear move to bolster their output of high-end drama. The launch of a new production company by experienced industry veterans signals a continued drive for fresh creative ventures. And the various talent signings reflect the dynamic nature of career progression within this field.
And finally, a key renewal to note, Dexter. Original Sin will be returning for a 2nd season on Paramount Plus with Showtime.
Right. The renewal of a prequel series often indicates a positive audience reception and a belief in the continued potential of the established intellectual property.
Okay, so we have covered a tremendous amount of ground in this deep dive into the latest industry news. Looking at the bigger picture, what would you say are some of the key overarching themes that emerge?
Several interconnected themes really stand out, I think. We're seeing a fascinating interplay between the desire for creative risk-taking, like with projects like Adolescence, and the continued reliance on well-established formulas and popular franchises. There's a very clear trend of increasing internationalization in content creation, with more co-productions and adaptations crossing borders. The role of technology, particularly AI, is rapidly evolving and prompting significant discussions about its impact on creative processes and the workforce. And underpinning all of this is the constant strategic maneuvering by various industry players, broadcasters, studios, production companies as they navigate this dynamic and ever-shifting landscape.
It's really striking how all these seemingly disparate news items actually weave together. They paint a picture of an industry that is constantly in motion, trying to find that delicate balance between embracing innovation and leveraging what has proven successful in the past, and increasingly looking beyond national boundaries for both creative inspiration and broader audiences.
Absolutely. Each of these developments, from the success of a small independent film on a major streaming platform to a legacy broadcaster adapting its production model, contributes to the larger narrative of a global media environment undergoing significant and rapid transformation.
So here's a final thought for you, the learner, as you process all of this. Considering the trends and announcements we've explored today, the embrace of risk, the growing international collaborations, the rise of AI, the strategic realignments, what single development or trend do you believe will ultimately have the most profound and lasting impact on the way stories are told and consumed in the years to come? Will it be the continued march of technological innovation, or will the fundamental power of a well-crafted narrative always remain the driving force? We encourage you to continue exploring the developments that resonated most with you from this deep dive. Thanks for tuning in.